Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 4 of the Bold and Bearish Talk Show, where I talk all things Chicago Bears and sports news. We have a great episode in store today. There is a ton of breaking news going around the NFL from all training camps and coaches. Our Chicago Bears news is running rampant, so we're just going to jump right on into it. Welcome to the show.
And he's in for the touchdown.
3 yards in the first down.
The 25 to the 20. Great run by Chad. The sideline inside the...
Most importantly, every week you know that we go over weekly Bears news. Now, people are excited to see what's going on. We as Bears fans and even fans around the league know almost every year we as a fan base think that we figured it out. That success will come in the following season. And it turns out to always be the case that we try and solve problems that were never problems rather than solving the actual issues. Some things that we know for sure coming out of weeks 1 and 2 is that Ben Johnson is not allowing any excuses. Holding players accountable, giving everyone their reps to see who could truly be a rising star. He's giving everybody a fair chance. Caleb Williams has been showing some huge improvements in his ability to read the defense, follow a new playbook. That's a great thing to hear, especially due to the first few days. Seems like those were a true test of character for Caleb. He had some bad decision-making going on there as far as, throwing, reading the defense, those kind of things. Johnson has spoken on Williams' ability to get through tough coaching and fix the problems that he brings up. The offense is working on timing, combinations, especially with the new players and offensive line. There's almost a completely brand new set of offensive linemen this year, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get those things worked out. Now, moving into, we have some people visiting Chicago, potential signings, wide receiver DJ Chark, who did previously play with the Bears head coach Ben Johnson, visited the team and could be a potential signing. Now, he is currently a free agent. Shown flashes of potential in the past. Consistency and availability have been big issues for him. Recently, I think he did sign with the Atlanta Falcons, so I guess he'll look to contribute there as a deep threat. It seems at this point in his career, he doesn't have much value anymore. He's old and banged up now. Hasn't had a good season since 2019. As of now, he is on the Falcons, though, so that will be the headache for them to have to deal with. Speaking of old and banged up, we got Jadeveon Clowney, who's apparently has visited the Bears facility as a potential signing. 32 years old, 140 games into his 11-year NFL career. I don't think he's someone we should be spending money on unless we can get a super sweet deal for him. Even then, it's one of those signings that would just be for name value, anything, that you would want to write home about. He's had good success early in his career, but, just kind of has been declining ever since then. Moving into the next piece here, Chicago Bears have released their new helmet look that they will be featuring in what they say is 2 games throughout the 2025 season. Now, how true that is, we don't know, because the orange uniforms, I'm personally a huge fan of those uniforms. In my opinion, I think they're super clean, and I wish we wore them more than we do. I feel like we should start a petition to make them wear the orange uniforms every home game for 1 full season, just to kind of see how it looks. But here is a picture of the rendering of the new helmets right in the bottom left of the screen here. All orange gloss with the navy blue C. And it is looking super, super clean. I just hope that we wear them more than 2 times. Now, this kid in the bottom right here, J.P. Richardson, he was an undrafted rookie receiver for us who continues to make impressive catches in the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 drills. He is a quick, smaller guy, similar to a Cole Beasley style player. I think he'll be able to make easy work of the slot routes and has shown great hands. Luther Burden, who has also been playing the slot, I feel like they could be a good duo slot combo. It's kind of a 1-2 punch at that receiver spot. And with the biggest piece of news that I want to go over as far as Bears camp, we finally, ladies and gentlemen, have the news we have been waiting for Jalen Johnson. Now, it has been revealed that he will only be missing time during the training camp and potentially a preseason game or two. He will be ready to go for week 1, according to our health staff. That is huge news. A week ago, they were not sure on his recovery time. He hadn't been in to be evaluated yet, so everybody was wondering if he would be ready to go. Test confirm injury is not severe. He will be good to go with that leg injury coming into week 1. Moving on into a bit of some more Bears news here. Luther Burden has returned to camp, has been lighting it up, and impressed Ben Johnson a whole lot. He has returned fully healthy, had the lingering pain he was dealing with, sidelined for a few days, has returned and immediately been receiving praises, got natural hands, natural route running abilities. This is a guy who everyone passed on in the draft. Going into the second round, he still wasn't off the board. Ben Johnson, was the coordinator for the Lions with their receiver Jamison Williams, who is actually Luther Burden's high school teammate. So he's pretty familiar with the Luther Burden style that he's going to bring to the table. All the GMs and coaches passed on Luther in the draft. They were afraid of character issues. They were afraid he's going to be uncoachable. Making all these excuses as to why they didn't want to draft him. Ben Johnson saw through all that. Sometimes people have a little bit of an attitude or they have some kind of moxie about them that some people might get rubbed the wrong way by. Ben Johnson saw that as, he took that as swagger, and he was, he's going to make Luther Burden a very successful receiver in this offense. Grady Jarrett moving right along nicely on his new defensive line. He has praised Dennis Allen and his strong defensive mindset. He has commented on the new refreshing defensive scheme that Dennis is bringing to the table. What this kind of reminds me of? This reminds me, do you guys remember the Vic Fangio defense from around 2018, 2019? That defense was magical. And I'm starting to get the same vibes from this group here. But this group here is younger, healthier, quicker, easier to coach. That 2018 group, there was a lot of good veterans, but they were kind of stuck in their ways. We have a great young team on offense and defense who are willing to learn. That is the biggest difference here. Now, Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, the defense, everybody seems to be flowing greatly. If you go in and you can watch training camp footage, you can see the crispiness of the routes our receivers are running. Holston Loveland, like he's doing great coming into his own. Him and Cole Kmet, I feel like if we do it correctly, they could be a phenomenal 1-2 tight end punch in the league this year. And, super excited. Everybody's super excited to see what's going to be going on for the new Bears offensive scheme. As far as the offensive tackles, left tackle battle seems to be brewing to watch throughout training camp. Braxton Jones, our rookie Ozzy Trapillo, the big boy, 6'8", and Kieran Amadaji. Now, these three, I believe, are like working rep for rep, seeing who is more consistent. Like I said earlier, Ben Johnson is giving anybody and everybody their reps that they deserve to see who could be the stars that we need to be having on our main line. Now, who that could be come week 1 starting, we won't know until that happens. But throughout training camp, we will be able to see a little bit better of an idea, come more so to closer to that time. But that is about it for the Bears portion here of the news segment. We are going to jump into a couple of different things. First things, we're going to get into some of these contract disputes that are coming around the NFL right now. Okay. We cannot begin the contract negotiation talks without starting with Micah Parsons right now. As of today, August 4th, 2025, Micah Parsons has still not yet received a contract from the Dallas Cowboys. We are several weeks into training camp. The entire offseason is over now, and he still does not have a contract. Now, when you take a look at why, it kind of gets pretty simple. It all revolves around Jerry Jones. Now, in all of this, Micah has said he's did everything, and I quote, "I did everything I could to show that I wanted to be a Cowboy and wear the star on my helmet. Unfortunately, I no longer want to be here." Jerry Jones, tisk, tisk, tisk. Micah Parsons now has officially requested a trade to split from the organization. When you read into the situation and you understand why, Micah has quoted several times that he has felt like he's taken repeated shots from the organization and a desire to have his agent present during the negotiations, which he claims have been conducted behind closed doors. Meaning, they have not allowed Micah's agent, I think his name's David. David has not been allowed in this room during any numbers being discussed. He has publicly announced his decision on social media, stating he no longer wants to play for the team. We are talking about a player of the caliber in his first 4 seasons. He's been in the league for 4 seasons. He is a 4-time Pro Bowler. Been in the Pro Bowl every year. Been in the league. A 2-time first-team All-Pro. Means he's been an All-Pro for half his career. Has generated at least 12 sacks or more in each of his 4 seasons. Remember when we were just talking about Jadeveon Clowney a second ago? Jadeveon Clowney has 57 career sacks. Micah has 12 or more in his first 4 seasons. 12 times 4 is what? 48. 4-year career, 48 sacks. Jadeveon Clowney, 11-year career, 57 sacks. He's on pace to have double Jadeveon Clowney's sacks in less time. He is in the final year of his rookie contract, which is worth $24.7 million. That being far below other pass rushers of his caliber, and $17 million under top market edge rusher pay. Guys like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, those kind of caliber players. Now, like I mentioned, Parsons' agent approached the Cowboys prior to last year about a contract extension. But the team's focus was on Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, who then became the highest paid quarterback and second highest paid wide receiver. Jerry Jones might be the worst of the worst when it comes to GMs. This man genuinely seems to be trying to ruin the Cowboys' reputation single-handedly on purpose. He makes the most simple choices seem impossible. Impossible. How have you not made the move to re-sign Micah Parsons? Arguably the best player to join the organization in the last 15 years. Jerry Jones, typical classic Jerry Jones, acting like he is broke. For anyone obviously other than Dak Prescott, we know he gave him $240 million for a 4-year deal, and then proceeded to pay CeeDee Lamb an egregious amount of money as well. CeeDee Lamb, even with his big contract, took a big pay chunk cut. If the Cowboys don't want Micah Parsons, send him over to Chicago. We will gladly take him on over here in the Twin Cities. We would love to have him. Bring him on over. This is one of those guys that you just kind of don't beat around the bush with. And it kind of brings in to the next person I'm going to be speaking of, which, is Bengals lineman Trey Hendrickson. Now, before we get into Trey, Jerry Jones stated about Micah that the team does want to pay Micah, but also indicated that Parsons needs to show he wants to be paid. My question to Jerry Jones is this: how would you like Micah to show he wants to be paid any other ways than he already has? Has shown loyalty to your organization, performs at a very high level consistently, doesn't have any locker room trouble, no issues outside of the locker room, with the media and getting in trouble with the law. This is the kind of guy that you want on your team forever. On his rookie contract, his final year, you could have this guy for the next 6-7 years if you give him a good enough deal. Literally, you could have him for the next almost 10 years if you play it right. Why is Jerry Jones always waiting till the last second to pay his star guys? It was the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. Luckily, he didn't walk. Otherwise, they would have been struggling in the receiver department. But back on over to Trey Hendrickson. Another lineman on there, Shamar Stewart, who we mentioned in last week's episode. Shamar Stewart says there's no bad blood with the team. After continuous contract standoffs, he did sign his rookie deal, so there is no more issues there. But now we're getting into Trey Hendrickson. And Trey Hendrickson is similar to this Micah Parsons. So with Trey Hendrickson, very similar situation to Micah Parsons and the Cowboys. One of those situations where the top star wants to walk due to contract disputes. Still in disputes over his contract. Let's put it this way. When your star player is thinking of walking, it might need to be an urgent situation that you want to handle. Then again, for the last several years, they have been notorious for waiting till the last minute to offer up money to their star players. Kind of like last year before the season, we all know Jamar Chase had his big issues with the team and him getting a contract. He then later on signed a massive contract, but it took them forever to come to an agreement on a number. So Cincinnati fans, they're just dealing with a whole bunch of deja vu and anxiety, wondering if they're going to wake up with that ESPN notification. You know, Troy Hendrickson has left the Cincinnati Bengals and is seeking a new team. You know, if that happens, they might be screwed through and through. Um, but moving on here, as part of a total blockbuster trade in the NFL here in the AFC, Dolphins safety Minka Fitzpatrick gets a $16.2 million signing bonus with his reworked deal. Now, Minka has kind of done a two-team swap a little bit. He will be the main defensive ball guy. He's a veteran, strong game IQ. Like I said, does a little two-team swap in his career. Initially drafted to Miami, his rookie season, played for them until being drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2019. And now he spent 15 seasons in Pittsburgh before now being traded back to Miami this offseason. The Dolphins did get rid of Jalen Ramsey as part of the trade, which the Steelers have obviously acquired, as well as tight end Jonnu Smith. So that was a huge trade, team swap basically. So now the Steelers have Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. Now, moving into this next segment of the show here, I want to do this every week or 2 times a week, going over fantasy football sleeper picks entering this 2025 football season. I think it'll be a good addition and will be helpful in assisting make decisions in your own drafts this year. So let's go ahead and get right on in to some fantasy sleepers. All right, so jumping into the very first segment of the 2025 weekly fantasy football sleepers segment. Like I said, I want to do this at least once or twice a week just to kind of help, make some decisions in your guys' drafts, that might be a little bit difficult. You don't know exactly who to lean towards, and that happens every year. But we're going to go position for position. We're going to go one guy a week at every spot and talk about them and, just kind of delve into a reason why they might be somebody you want to sneakily try and draft this year. Now, the first guy on the list here, we all know, we're going to start with the QB position, Kyler Murray, quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, with a healthy year, Murray does have the potential to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback with both passing and rushing upside. Now, we do know Murray last year dealt with some injuries, kept him out of the offensive lineup for quite some time. Marvin Harrison Jr. is now in his second season with the team and could help Kyler Murray prove why he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback. And Harrison could also prove while he is a top 5 fantasy receiver. With a healthy Kyler Murray, before the injuries last year, he was on pace for a solid season. We all know that injuries can plague success of any kind of player, no matter the skill level. And we do also know the rushing upside that Kyler Murray provides. He has progressed in practice with accuracy and timing. So we could be in for a new dawn of Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. And they also still have James Conner, and we can look for him to help Kyler Murray out in the play action game. Moving on to the running back position, we have J.K. Dobbins. Now, J.K. Dobbins was a Los Angeles Charger last year. And he, despite injuries, had a solid year up until the injuries. He did suffer a knee injury in week 12 of the 2024 season against the Baltimore Ravens, his former team. Now, that injury did unfortunately sideline him for the remainder of the season. Dobbins exited the game in the first half after sustaining a sprain of his left medial collateral ligament. And if you know what that is your MCL. So he sprained his MCL, was out for the rest of the season. As of December 27th, 2024, Dobbins is recovering from his surgery. Now, Dobbins is no longer a Los Angeles Charger. He has since been moved over to the Denver Broncos offensive running game. Now, Sean Payton's offense that utilizes running backs could be a great pick for him. If you're able to get J.K. Dobbins in a late round scheme where he is not your main back, but you can kind of put him in there as a flex, you could have a potential 20-plus points per week player if he stays healthy. He is expected to be fully healthy for this upcoming season. Be on the lookout for J.K. Dobbins falling to you in your drafts. Don't be afraid of the recent injury. Same with Kyler Murray. If you can get Kyler Murray late in the 8th or 9th round, as far as, if you've already got good skill positions set up, if you can get Kyler Murray in the later rounds, I would do it. Now, moving on to a different part of the offensive side of the football, we have wide receiver out of the Buffalo Bills, Keon Coleman. Now, Keon Coleman last year was a rookie. He had a confusing but strong rookie season. He could potentially be the main target in Buffalo's offense. Last year was kind of a slow start for him. Buffalo's offense was kind of in a position where it was trying to figure out what it kind of wanted to flow like. And Coleman ended up, in result, not seeing as many targets as he would have hoped. But his 2025 outlook, on the opposite, is promising, with many expecting him to build up on his rookie season, potentially become a top fantasy football option. Nobody knows what Keon will do this year, obviously, because of how weird their offense flowed last year. James Cook had like 20-something touchdowns on the ground. Nobody expected it to be a run-heavy offense last year, and I think that was because they didn't have many receivers with that connection to Josh Allen yet. I feel like this year he's projected to see a big increase in targets and playing time. His size, ball skill, he got big hands. He's a strong candidate to have a breakout year, I feel like. He has shown great flashes of brilliance. Coleman expected, I feel, to see, like I said, a larger role. His ability to make contested catches, especially in the red zone, that's going to make him a valuable asset, and it could potentially make him a superstar later in the season if you're able to pick him up for a very cheap price. I would not recommend, going for Keon in any round sooner than 6 or 7. That might sound crazy, but it's just one of those receivers where, with the season he had last year, you don't want to overpay for this year. That's the last thing you'd want to do. Moving on to the last position here, we have the tight end spot. Luke Musgrave of the Green Bay Packers. Now, I am a Bears fan, but this kid definitely has potential. I don't like to say it, He could be a top fantasy tight end if he can stay healthy and build on his rookie season. He's a huge sleeper potential. He, at the tight end position, part of a talented Green Bay Packers offense, as much as that pains me to say, they do know how to move the football around. That is not up for debate. They can move the ball around, especially Jordan Love. He had, I think, 7 or 8 different receivers that he threw to last season. He's not a one-receiver kind of guy, not a one-trick pony. He'll throw it to anybody who's open. If Musgrave can stay healthy, injuries kind of limited his rookie season, he could be a valuable asset. Tucker Kraft is his competition for snaps. Kraft last year was very solid, no injuries for the most part. So Tucker Kraft will likely get a majority of the snaps, but Luke Musgrave as a late tight end, highly athletic, 6'6", potential to be a mismatch over the middle of the field. He's a super big guy, could be a very, very good candidate for your fantasy football team in the tight end spot. Well, everybody, that is going to do it for today's episode. I had a great time getting this episode done for you guys. We are in preparation for full-fledged fantasy football and regular season NFL super soon, and I could not be more excited. Today, we talked about all the crazy contract news going around the NFL right now with Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson. A lot of it is surprising to me. I'm wondering how the rest of it will all play out accordingly. Talked about some exciting news and updates coming from the Chicago Bears camp and coaches who mentioned great things to come for the following weeks. And we finish it off by going start of our new segment, Weekly Fantasy Football Sleepers, which was a great time also. If you have any suggestions or feedback, be sure to drop it down in the comments below. But until next time, bear down.
By Chad. The sideline inside the